But a part of riding for your friend is being honest with her. Loyalty is not blind. I'm not going to just blindly ride behind you and ride for you just off the strength of you being my friend. Me being your friend is being able to tell you when you're wrong. I'm with you when you're right. But being able to call out when that wasn't cool. And for me, I crave that in return. So when people say, God told me to tell you, immediately I stop listening. I tune out. It is a red flag because in all of my God time, God ain't never came and said, Kayla, go tell such and such this. And my whole thing is, if he could tell it to me, girl, why he just ain't tell it to you? I think that we do ourselves a disservice by going around giving out advice that is always in support of the friend. Sometimes you're going to have to tell me some shit that I don't like. And I'm going to have to not like it and love you anyway. And when it comes to receiving and giving spiritual advice, I think we need to be very aware of where the person is in their own journey and their own relationship with God. Take an audit of who that friend is, the things that make them tick, their triggers, the things that they've been through, the things that they're passionate about, the season that they're in, and give them advice based on who you know them to be, not just generic advice, these unwritten rules about how things should go when dating and when courting each other. We give advice not for the person, but we project what we would do on the person. And I think there's a big difference between advising a person based on who they are and what they're going through, or giving them advice based on what you would do. This one is for the millennial who needs to give better advice and learn to discern what advice they need to be taken. Let's go beneath the seams. Life can be so complex. The human experience is far more expansive than what we can see, and we spend so much time just trying to figure it out. We put on makeup, nice clothing, and we go out into the world trying to hold it all together, when beneath those seams, we are being ripped apart. Some of the ripping is self-inflicted, some of it is because of the pressure of society, but all of it is limiting. Limiting in our quest to just simply be who we truly are. We're more complex than we give ourselves credit for. We fill our brains with popular sayings like, oh, it ain't that serious, loosen up, or just live a little. But life in itself is a deep, non-surface level experience, and sometimes it can be pretty serious. So often we force ourselves to only exist at the surface, never allowing ourselves to be fully exposed. We let the layers pile up until the pressure becomes too much to bear, and then we rip. Sometimes into shreds, and a lot of the times in silence. Beneath means to go below the surface, and seams are what are supposed to keep us joined together. Because we are taught, no matter what, you just have to keep yourself together. We create this image, never letting people in, never going beneath the seams. I don't know if we ever get the answers we expect from life, but I'm starting to find peace in the process of just figuring it out. Instead of forcing the complexities of this human experience to be hidden, let's peel back the layers and go beneath them. Beneath the Seams, a love letter to millennials who are just trying to figure it out. Beneath the Seams, the podcast, now available on all platforms. Hey y'all, and welcome back to another episode of Beneath the Seams. I'm your host, Kayla Riggins, and this is the safe seat. This is the scene seat. This is the seat where I get all up in y'all business. I let y'all in my business, and we have unapologetic, authentic, real conversations like you've never really heard or seen them before, if I do say so myself. Over here, we really peel back the layers and talk about the things that people don't be wanting to talk about. And we do it in an authentic way because things are really ever what they seem. So we go beneath them and we have the tough conversations. We say the things that we are thinking out loud, all in an effort to live a more limitless, fruitful, authentic life. Okay? So if that's your vibe, if that's your jam, stick around, stay a while, kick your shoes off. Mine already off. You're going to love it over here. So you will hear all of these sayings about the quality of your life is rooted in this, and what you are experiencing today is the sum of your total decisions. There are so many, methodical and very whimsical and descriptive statements and phrases and quotes about life. Everybody will give you a different philosophy on life and what it is and why it is and how to navigate it better. But one of the things that I'm really learning in my interpersonal relationships is we got to learn how to give and take better advice. And that's what I want to talk about today. Y'all know I'm always sharing from a space of exactly where I am in life. And in this phase of my life, I'm trying to be better at being a better friend, being an all around better person, but making sure that I give people what they need and show up for them in a way that they need. And this has actually been a topic that I've wanted to talk to for a while. It's been on my master list of topics. And I've wanted to talk to it for a while, but I always just go with my gut feeling of what is happening that week or what's happening in life that is more pressing. And so this one has been on the list for a while, but it kept getting knocked off by other things. And so finally, the time has come for me to really talk about this. And so I want to speak about it from a couple of different levels and layers. Y'all know I like to break my life up into sections, into categories. It's how I process thoughts. And so you always want to kind of have just a way to make things make sense in your mind, because y'all know I be over here by myself, talking to myself, spending a whole lot of time with myself. Y'all pray for me. Get me somebody in here, but not nobody to work on my nerves. Okay, let's stay focused. So I like to break things down into categories. Y'all know, spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, just picking from some of those categories. So when it comes to giving advice and receiving advice, I want to talk about it from a dating perspective, a relational perspective, so your interpersonal relationships and your friends, and a spiritual perspective, advice giving and advice receiving in all of those areas. All right, let's get into it. So we're going to jump right on in and we're going to talk about dating advice first. Against my better judgment, because y'all know this type of content be making me cringe. But these conversations are important, and I do approach it from a very non-divisive way. And I feel like my voice should be heard, because I don't really talk about dating from a, I hate all men, men are stupid, men hate all women perspective. I think that is very divisive, and I think it's one of our biggest problems. So here we go. Let's jump into the dating and the dating advice. I think that collectively we have to do a better job, particularly as women in our girl groups and in our friendships, to give dating advice that is based on where the person is in their life and what the person currently desires in this season. And I feel like so often we give advice not for the person, but we project what we would do on the person. And I think there's a big difference between advising a person based on who they are and what they're going through, or giving them advice based on what you would do. And so I think we have to do a better job at clarifying, right? It's kind of like, okay, girl, you just want to vent and you want me to listen, or you want me to tell you what I would do, or do you want me to advise you on what I think you should do? And I think it takes a high level of emotional intelligence to understand that those two, the latter, are not going to always be the same thing. What I would do and what I think you should do are not going to be the same thing when giving advice. The problem is, so often when you're talking to your girlfriends in particular about dating, the advice is based on what they would do. And it's not really helpful, because it's important to advise the person based on where they are. So for example, y'all know I've been back on these dating apps, and I was telling my friend Bree about a conversation I was having with a guy. We'll share that later. Somebody asked for a part 2 in the comments of I'm back on these dating apps. So I might have to give y'all a part 2. But I was sharing with her that he passed a comment that kind of just rubbed me the wrong way. And it was a clear indicator that we're probably not a match, right? Like, we are a little bit unequally yoked. And when I tell y'all what the comment is in a later episode, it'll make sense. But I also don't think we're intellectually compatible. However, because of the season that I'm in, while I am open to and would love to meet my person, I am also open to meeting people that I can have fun with, meeting people that I can be platonic friends with. And so when I told her what he said, she was like, oh no, cut him off. Immediately no. Delete, block, unfollow. And I was like, well, damn. Like, no, you cannot be out here giving me that type of advice when that's not where I'm at in life. So I think a better navigation of that conversation could have been, well, what box can we put him in? What category can we place him in? Do you close your eyes and see him as a potential my man, my man, my man? Is he somebody who you feel like you could get to know and just have fun with? Are you in a season in your life where you just want to have fun? Or is he somebody that you feel like could be a really good friend? Like, we don't have to write people off as quickly, especially if you investigate where that friend is in their life. Hey, girl. I know. You like, Kayla, what are you doing interrupting my episode? I know you had your snacks and you was all in it, but hear me out. After this episode is over, I don't want the conversation to end here. So I want to invite you. This is your exclusive invitation to be a part of my community because you are my people. And that's the name of my Patreon community, my people. So over there, you get access to exclusive content. We have monthly virtual dates where we connect and we have these real conversations. We keep the topics going. You get to have Q&A with me. You also get to meet and connect with each other. And pretty soon, some events are going to be happening too. So if this is your type of content, if you like deep conversations, if you want to create meaningful connections that really just help us be more of ourselves and be better to each other so that we can really experience the beauty that is life, I want you over there a part of my people because we see each other, okay? So make sure you click that link, join my Patreon community, and I will see you over there. Listen, don't meet me there, beat me there, okay? All right, go ahead, pick your snack back up, get back to the episode. And so I told her, I was like, no, Bree, that's bad advice. Like, you should assess like what I want and how I feel before just telling me to cut somebody off. And so similarly, because y'all know I try to practice what I preach, I had another friend who was kind of dating this guy. They had went out once, and I think they were like in that in-between phase, like, are we gonna go out again, or is that last date just it? And she hit the group chat and she was like, hey y'all, I need some advice. Like, he's getting on my nerves. I don't like this line of questioning. Am I being, dramatic about this? And so I said to her in a voice note, I was like, well, we haven't talked in a while. So before I answer your question and tell you what I think, what phase of life are you in when it comes to dating? Are you really ready to settle down and meet your person and you're not entertaining any outside noise outside of that? Or are you in a space where you are looking to get to know men and rediscover what you like and what you don't like? Or are you out here thotting and bopping and ay-ay-aying and you just going through a phase where whatever comes to you is what it is? You just want to entertain masculine energy and you'll figure it out on the back end. Those are the phases that I feel like we commonly find ourselves in. And I was eating crab legs over the summer, and I started talking to this couple that was sitting to the left table of me and my friend Shar. Y'all know Shar, she's been on the pod. And they said something that really stuck with me. Having a whole phase is very popular. Everybody doesn't get one. And I know whole phase can have like a negative connotation. But what I think of it is as a phase where you're just not taking yourself or people too seriously. You're just dating, you're getting to know men, you're getting to know yourself, right? What you like and what you don't like. What I love that couple shared, and they were married, they said that they found each other in a whole phase. Like they were both just out here doing whatever, not taking things too heavy, being real casual. And through that, they found their love, their match, their husband, their wife. And that really shifted my perspective on the type of advice. Again, and this is advice from a stranger's, because a lot of times we are kind of wired to think it has to be one or the other. It has to be black or white. It has to be this or that. And y'all know I say in this podcast all the time, I'm going to contradict myself. Life is one big walking contradiction. And one of the compliments I get all the time is that, wow, you show up so transparent. You show up so vulnerable. And the reason for that is because I don't take myself too seriously in my head to have to be right or wrong. I'm just a human being having a human experience. And so she helped me free up this idea that you have to be super focused and not entertain any BS when you are ready to find your person. Like, you could be out here in these streets having fun and find your person along the way. And so going back to my friend, I was like, so what season are you in? Like, we haven't caught up in a while. Before I give you advice, I need to know, like, are you in a season where you're very intolerant to BS? Are you in a season where, you could deal with a little a little eye rolling, a little, y'all know the stuff that come with dating these men, right? And so based on your answer, I want to give you advice. It would have been very easy for me to be like, oh, no, girl, he did this, cut him off. Or, even the opposite. Oh, girl, we'll give him another chance. I think that we have to give advice based on the layers of what the person is going through and the level that they are experiencing currently in their life. And so the next time that you are giving your friend relationship advice, or you guys are talking about the guys, I just advise you to be a little bit more intentional so that you can be careful not to project. It's very easy to tell you what I would or wouldn't do, but the reality is I'm not you. I don't have your experiences. I don't think like you. And so when you're in an intimate relationship with your friends, because friends know you deeply, oftentimes more deeply than a partner will ever really know you, I think it's important to take an audit of who that friend is, the things that make them tick, their triggers, the things that they've been through, the things that they're passionate about, the season that they're in, and give them advice based on who you know them to be, not just generic advice, these unwritten rules about how things should go when dating and when courting each other. And I think that's another thing when it comes to giving dating advice. We are all regurgitating and reading from a playbook that we don't even know who wrote. Well, girl, you shouldn't text him first. Don't text back too fast. Like, make sure he calls you, every day. He need to text good morning first. And just all of these different stupid, if I'm being honest, things about how you should be when getting to know a man, when getting to know the opposite sex. I think that those things can be limiting as well because it's very generic, basic, by the book, and it doesn't leave room for gray area. Things aren't black and white. People are not the same. We're all individuals. We're all uniquely designed. And so applying this rule book of advice to every single situation just literally doesn't make sense. And that's why I was so grateful for that couple sharing, like, hey, we was out here and we met each other in the process, because I'm a person who could be very uptight, like Claudia's Bob, tight. And I told y'all in a previous episode, I was very tight in my 20s. And so now in my early 30s, coming out of that and just trying to be more casual with myself and not so hard on myself about what life and situations and circumstances should look like, that was really good stranger advice that freed me up. So the next time, girls, the next time we are talking with our girlfriends, let's not just jump to the conclusion that the advice that we're given is based on what they really need. Let's ask more qualifying questions to really advise them on this season in their life. Because even when I told my friend Bree, I was like, she was like, Kayla, he is not your person. Like, he's not going to be your husband. And I was like, Bree, you're probably right. Like, he's not giving me my man energy. However, I see I could have fun with him. Like, we could get to know each other. And at the very least, I could have an experience that teaches me more about myself and more about men. And so that I can take those experiences into my next situation, right? And she was like, you know what? You're right. Okay, I shouldn't have said that. So even me having the ability to, she's going to hear this and be like, girl, not just spilling our tea on the pot. But even me having the ability to say to her, like, no, that's not good advice. It's just, again, I understand that I have a high level of emotional intellect, emotional intelligence, and just a high level of intelligence in general. Not to toot my own horn, but, beep, beep. It just is what it is. So I get that most people won't see it that way, but I think that's why these conversations are important, so that we can free ourselves from the chains of following these rules of how things should go. Okay. So when it comes to relational advice, interpersonal relationships, friendships, conflicts with coworkers, even advice on navigating, getting a new job, all of those things, I think it's really important, and we're all missing the mark by not asking enough questions about not only the circumstance, but being more objective, okay, about asking questions that call out the flaws in our friend or in the person that we are giving the advice to. And here's what I mean by that. My friends know I could be stubborn. My friends know I can be dramatic. My friends know I can be super emotional. And so I want them to hold me accountable, that when I'm asking them for advice, if I'm going through a friendship issue, I want them to hold me accountable to say, okay, well, Kayla, what was your part in it? Did you blow this out of proportion? Were you rational when you were thinking about it, or were you super emotional? Did you make that decision irrationally? Were you stubborn? Should you apologize? I want for the advice to be able to be given based on the person who you've known me to be, both positively and also not so positively, because wow, I'm almost there. Just kidding. Nobody's perfect. And so I don't want just a yes man. And I feel like a lot of times when giving friends advice, we are not constructive in that advice based on who we've known them to be. Your friends, if they're your real ones, they really get to see you flaws and all. And so I want you to be able to tell me, well, Kayla, you have a pattern of this. So now that this has come up again, maybe you should check yourself. Maybe you should do some self-reflection. I think that we do ourselves a disservice by going around giving out advice that is always in support of the friend. Sometimes you're going to have to tell me some shit that I don't like, and I'm going to have to not like it and love you anyway, and vice versa. And I always prep my friends. I'll be like, I'm going to say this and you're not going to like it, but I have to say it. And I think that's the foundation of having real conversations, is saying things that are tough to say, saying things that are not easy to hear, but loving each other enough to be able to move past it anyway. Because, girl, like at this point, we is friendship soulmates. So where are you really going? You know, I feel like 30s are the age where you start to really meet the people, or you're already in real alignment with the people who you're going to ride through life with. And not to say that it won't change, but just generally speaking, by now you've kind of been through some real things. Again, if you have real friends with these group of women. And so it's like, okay, well, whatever is happening, we ain't not finna be friends. So I'm going to say this and you could be mad about it. And, you know, girl, call me tomorrow. But I crave that level of intimacy. I crave that level of honesty. And I think it makes us better friends. I think it makes us better advice givers. And I think it makes us more open to receiving advice that is not necessarily what we want to hear. And I think it's okay to ask those qualifying questions. Like, do you want me to just listen to you? Do you just need to vent? Or do you want me to tell you the truth? Or you just want me to, because I'm never me, Kayla, I'm never going to tell you just what you want to hear. I'm just going to not say nothing. And so I'm one of those friends. I think I give really good advice. My friends have told me that I give really good advice. They say that I'm easy to talk to, and I always make it a safe space. Like, they can call me and tell me anything and there won't be any judgment. And the reason for that is because who am I to judge you? I got my own life and salvation to worry about. I got my own demons I'm boxing and fighting off every day. And I just want to be here and be in intimacy and relationship and community. I want to love and be loved. That is all we all want. And so who am I to judge you? And that's why I'm able to provide what they call, you know, like a safe space. And one of the reasons is because I listen. I don't think we are doing a good enough job at really listening at the core, into the heart of the matter of what it is that our friends are going through when we give advice. And so in seasons where I felt a little unseen or a little unheard, it's like, girl, are you listening to me? Like, are you thoroughly listening? Like, pull out a pencil and paper and take notes if you have to. I think that really helps to elevate the conversation, but also set the tone for true understanding. Okay? Word to escape. What I need from you is understanding. Did I hit my note? Did I hit my note? I hit my note. But that's what we really need, is understanding. And the way to do that is to really, really listen to the POV of the person in its entirety. And so when you're giving your advice about friendships, about interpersonal relationships, don't just be one-sided, right? Learning to not be blinded by, well, that's my friend and I'm going to ride for her. Yeah. But a part of riding for your friend is being honest with her. Loyalty is not blind. I'm not going to just blindly ride behind you and ride for you just off the strength of you being my friend. Me being your friend is being able to tell you when you're wrong. I'm with you when you're right, but being able to call out when that wasn't cool. And for me, I crave that in return. And so those are just some of the things that I've been working through when it comes to giving and receiving advice on a relational level with your friends. Okay, now this last one may rub some of y'all the wrong way. So if you are not open-minded and forward-thinking, go ahead and log on off. I ain't here to battle with nobody over their Christianity, their religion, their spirituality, their reality, none of the maladies, okay? Fight with your mama, call your baby daddy. I'm not here to tussle, okay? Don't tussle with me in the comments. This is my life and my salvation. All of these opinions and thoughts are my own, okay? But if you want to fight, I ain't no punk. I ain't gonna back down. But the next advice giving and receiving category is spiritual advice. You guys know spiritual journey just sounds so trendy, right? But I've definitely been in a space where I've been getting back grounded with who I am spiritually for about the past 2 years now. I wanted to get to know myself more. Even in my journey to coming back to this seat and creating this type of content, you have to be very secure and understanding of yourself and in yourself to be able to show up in the way that I do in real life and online. And so I wanted to make sure that I was grounded in that regard. And I wanted to know more about who is Kayla? Like, girl, who are you? And I thought, well, since we're made in God's image, get to know more about God and boom, you'll understand more about you. And that's been the journey that I'm on. And so spiritually, I've always been very intuitive, if you will. Y'all know I don't do them zodiacs. Okay. I do think that there are some parallels, but I don't live my life by it. I hate when people be like, oh, I can't date you because you are Aquarius. Grow up. Like, I don't believe in it in that way. But I do think that there are some parallels. So I'm a Pisces, and based on the chart, Pisces are very intuitive. But I also think I'm very intuitive because of my spirituality as well, and my discernment and my connection with my higher power. And so one of the things that has really stood out to me in my time with God is that God may place somebody on your heart. He may give you answers to your prayers about certain situations or people that you're dealing with. But God ain't never, clear as day, said to me, go tell Monica to do this. So when people say, God told me to tell you, immediately I stop listening. I tune out. It is a red flag because in all of my God time, God ain't never came and said, Kayla, go tell such and such this. And my whole thing is, if he could tell it to me, girl, why he just ain't tell it to you? Now, I do believe that you can hear messages from God through people, right? And so some of the comments that you guys have left in certain episodes, you're like, this spoke straight to me. I believe God used me as a vessel to speak to you, but that was up for you to decide. That was your discernment to clock that. It wasn't me sitting here saying, God told me to tell y'all this. And so I think it's a bunch of self-righteous mess, if I'm being honest, when people try to advise you spiritually based on God telling them something. Because my whole thing is, well, who are you? If God wanted me to know something, why wouldn't he just tell me? What makes you more divine or holy or aligned than I am? We're all his children. He loves us equally, right? And so why would God tell it to you to tell it to me? And you got your own stuff going on that you got to deal with, because we all do. And so God is spending y'all prayer time talking about me. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too practical, but I just don't believe in that type of spiritual advisement. And there have been times where I've been talking to a friend or just living my life, and I'll do something or say something and somebody's like, boom, you just gave me the confirmation I needed to do whatever. I believe that that's God. That's God talking to them through me. But again, that's their discernment. That's for them to be able to identify that that was for me. I feel the same way when you're in church, when you're reading a devotional. You ever notice how the message don't always hit every day? And that's just because that day, that message was not for you. God was not talking to you that time. And so when it comes to receiving and giving spiritual advice, I think we need to be very aware of where the person is in their own journey and their own relationship with God. She might as well be my spiritual advisor at this point. But my really good friend Marley, y'all have heard me talk about her on the pod all the time. One of my favorite quotes that Marley always says is, Kayla, stop assigning right and wrong to life's experiences. Sometimes things just are what they are. It's not right. It's not wrong. It just is. And she's a really good friend who understands me. And so she knows how to speak to me in a way that will calm me down. And so she has a really good, well-rounded perspective on spirituality. And so I talk to her a lot about God stuff and about, things in the Bible or just things that I'm working through spiritually. And her belief is that God is so much bigger than all of these earthly things that whenever something starts to make you feel bad, condemned, or wrong, that it is not of God unless you feel that conviction in your spirit, right? So if you start to feel bad, wrong, condemned for things that are outside of you, she's like, that's not of God. You know when you feel wrong. You know when you've done something bad. You know when you need to repent. And that's just so good for me. And the biggest thing that she said in the last time we had this conversation, she said, God is your conscience. And I was like, woo, Bob, that's good. I call her Bob. Her name is Marley. Bob, Marley. It's corny, I know, but I love it. But I was like, Bob, that's good. Like, God is your consciousness. And that just made so much sense to me, because when you hear those little whispers, those little inklings, right? When you say something told me not to, that's your consciousness. And that consciousness is God. And so when you are seeking spiritual advisement, I think it's important for you to go to people who have, and I might step on some toes with this. If you a good holier than thou Bible toting Christian, you're not going to subscribe to this. And that's okay. We can agree to disagree. But I think when you are seeking spiritual advisement, you should go to people who have a more well-rounded view that supersedes religion or Christianity or even the Bible. Because God is so much bigger than all of those things. God is not just limited to those things. They're resources, right? They're helpful. But because God is bigger than all of that, I think it's important to seek spiritual advisement or counsel with somebody who really views God as who he is, right? Which is the all-powerful, outside of all of these man-made entities. And that's what she has been for me. Now, to each its own. I don't want fight. I go to church. Y'all know I talk about Change Church all the time. I read the Bible. So I use these other tools, but it's really helpful for me to get spiritual advisement based on a macro view, because sometimes when you go too specific or too nuanced, for a person like me, it just clouds everything. And now I'm even more confused and I'm even more stressed. So when she's able to go big and advise me like, hey girl, God don't want you to suffer. If you feeling bad, that ain't God. That type of stuff just really makes the dots connect for me. And so that's where I'm at with like receiving spiritual advice. In terms of giving it, I'm just sharing my journey. I am not the most biblically astute. I am not the most well-read, can go toe to toe. Now we can talk about some things in the Bible, some scriptures, some stories, some parables, but I don't claim to be, that person. However, I think God uses my life as a testimony of who he is. And so I'm very intentional about giving advice through the sharing of my own stories and even the creating of my own content and the showing up in these conversations the way that I do. I think that that's my way of saying, I don't know. You got to figure it out. You got to go talk to Big G yourself because it's your life and your salvation. Y'all, that used to be on my great grandmother's answering machine growing up. So that's the joke behind it. That's why I love saying it so much. I truly believe, though, that this is my life and my salvation, but it's almost like a little shout out to her. So yeah, but yes, because this is your life and your salvation, you got to go work that out with your higher power. It is still very helpful for me to be able to share how he has helped in my life, because I feel like in a small way, that's me being able to give spiritual advice indirectly. And so I encourage you to not be shy. Don't shy away. Be bold about what you feel like your relationship is, what God has done for you, and just all of the ways that you are continuing to get to know who he is and how you're able to apply those things in your life. I think that that's very helpful because we're all spiritual beings. And so it really keeps us connected, because that's the point of all of this. I feel like we as people need to be more connected, which is why I don't buy into anything that is divisive. At least I try not to. I do love my reality TV though, and that's divisive as hell. But that's just my vice. Don't judge me, okay? Judge your mama, don't judge me. Okay, y'all. So this is the part of the show where we go beneath the comments, where you guys talk back to me and I read some of my favorite comments, just some of your thoughts, your opinions, your views on the things that we talk about and your perspective and what you're going through. This is also the part of the show where I beg you to leave a review on Apple Podcasts. And the reviews over there are Ooh, I ain't hear my note. Hold on. Baby, that that note was struggling. Hold on. The reviews over there are struggling. I think I hit my notes. So if you find it in your heart, please leave a review. Listen, somebody left one, y'all, as of October 1st, and it was a beautiful review. Thank you so much. Oh my God. Let me read it to y'all. It's just, I was like, how do I print this out and tape it to my forehead? Like, this is the type of language that is beautiful for a deck. Like, as I start to work on, the creative assets and things to pitch the show and get sponsors and all of that stuff. So this person says, her name is, am I going to mess this up? Probably Yanabana, Yanabana. She says, in a sea of podcasts that often feel divisive or surface level, Kayla is a breath of fresh air. She dives beneath the usual shallow conversations, offering authenticity, vulnerability, and a thoughtful dose of faith. Each episode adds depth and perspective, making complex topics not only digestible, but truly engaging. Kayla creates an inviting space for meaningful dialogue that feels constructive and enlightening, while still being entertaining. Thank you, sis, because I am a little, cuckoo. For anyone who is tired of the noise and craving something that resonates on a deeper level, this is the podcast you've been waiting for. Y'all, I read this and I was like, girl, how can I take you with me to present this to some sponsors? Because that's exactly it. That is it. That is exactly why I sit here, is because we ain't talking about real things. We're not having authentic and vulnerable conversations. And y'all know I love a scholar. This was so poetic. It was worded so beautifully. It was not a typo or a grammatical error in sight, sis. Okay. So thank you so much for leaving that review on Apple Podcasts. Y'all, if you feel it in your spirit, if you find it in your heart, please go over there and leave a review, because it helps me more than you know. That is how other people find the show. Okay. So in today's Beneath the Seams, I want to read a couple of comments from last week's episode that just had me cackling. Okay. So here we go. Hold on, y'all. Not me playing the episode. Okay. So, one of the comments that I love so much is, Richard Reloaded, which I believe from the username is a guy. So shout out to the men who are listening to the pod. Men be listening? I just never thought men would listen to this type of content unless I mean, I know my friend Isaiah listens. He's one of the executive producers. But I just thought when men come, they just be trolling. I didn't really think that these experiences spoke to men. So shout out to the men folk who be listening. Have y'all brothers and stuff call me. Anyway, Richard Reloaded said, you already know what time it is when you see Kayla coming with them toes out on that couch. Y'all, I hollered because yes. First of all, I love when like how you show up becomes like a thing, right? Like me having red hair, for example, I've been red for 12 years. So it's very much a part of like my aesthetic and my branding. And I feel like me sitting here with these toes out for whatever reason for the pod has become a part of the branding as well. So I just love that he picked up on that. And it's like, I just love it. Like whenever you see Kayla with them toes out on that couch, you already know what time it is. So that just made me literally cackle out loud. So I wanted to share that one with y'all. So this one comes from Lisa Green, 8855. She says, I'm in my 50s. Okay, shout out to the pod expanding across generations. Okay. What was that? Was that my Whoopi Goldberg voice or my Jan Van Zant voice? I don't know. But she says, I'm in my 50s and we are experiencing the same online dating ventures. No matter the age, online dating is raggedy. Well, keep the hope alive, sis. Okay. I don't think it's well, yeah, it's kind of raggedy. So her comment was on the last episode, which is I'm back on dating apps. And here's everything I'm learning about me and men. I don't think it's raggedy, but it is challenging. And so on that same episode, Jasmine Youngblood, she says, this conversation needed to be had. Thank you for sharing. And there was another young lady who said this needs to be a series. I do not see her comment at the moment though. I like to shout out your names, but for whatever reason, I don't see the exact name. But she said this needs to be a series talking about the dating stuff. And let me see if I can find it. Hold on, y'all. Okay, her name is Margie Daniels 489. She says this needs to be a series. And let me know in the comments, because this is beneath the comments. Let me know series suggestions, like things that y'all do want me to talk about reoccurring on a reoccurring basis. One for sure, I know is friendships and navigating friendships in your 30s and even beyond, just as adults. And dating is always, of course, a popular topic. So I would love to have like staple series where I talk about just what's going on in my life and in the lives of the people around me in that specific category. Because, child, that helped me produce the podcast. That makes sure that I'm showing up to the safe seat and the scene seat regularly. But also, I want to give y'all what y'all want. I want to give the people what they want. So let me know. There's also going to be some opportunities for y'all to come on as guests virtually to the pod as well. So let me know what y'all want to talk about, because I definitely want to implement those things. Okay. And the last one I want to read from beneath the comments is from Just S 7605. And she said, your podcast makes me feel represented. And stuff like that just warms my heart and is very affirming of the space that we are creating and the fact that these conversations are needed and necessary. And so I'm so happy that you guys can see yourself in me, because I'm just here. I don't have the answer, Sway. I don't have it all figured out. I don't think I have most things figured out, but I'm just committed to the process of being myself, loving along the way, and, experiencing and embracing love along the way. And so that's the energy that I try to bring. And so I love that in some small way, in my little corner of the internet, you guys see yourself and that you feel represented. So show me some love by continuing to comment, because I want Beneath the Comments to really be an interactive space where we get to talk to each other and keep the conversation going in between episodes. Okay. All right. Before we get out of here, tell me what's going on good in your life. Tell me something good in your life right now. Tell me some good advice you received lately, or tell me some good advice you gave lately. Let's keep the advice column kind of conversation going, because it's always important that no matter what is going on, we reflect on the good and the positive, because it usually, most times, almost always outweighs the bad. And we thank God for that. Okay. So listen, y'all, as we wrap up today's episode, no matter where you are in your journey of receiving advice, learning to have tough conversations, learning to give better advice, learning to be more open to the people in your life who do advise you, or maybe you're seeking the right advisors, no matter where you are in the journey, no matter what's going on, no matter how hard it may get, My prayer for you, my wish for you, is that you simply find peace in the process of just figuring it out. I will see you guys on the next episode. Bye.